good follow-up question is how did that nugget of an idea, how did you decide to design your own razor and start Aylsworth Razors?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It was my fascination with the craftsmanship of the razors themselves. I don't know how many I owned at that time of like the higher end kind of CNC bespoke three-piece razors. I maybe had a couple, but not too many. I think I might have had a carve Christopher Bradley. Um, I can't even think back now to and remember what my first couple were, but I was really fascinated with the craftsmanship, and so I'd be going down this rabbit hole on Instagram, looking at all of these shave of the day photos, and like I'd never heard of so many of these different makers like Timeless or Blackland, and
Mm,
I'd open up their pages, and then I'd look into their stories, and I'd look at all these like high resolution images, and me being a 3D designer, that's my background. I come from the video game industry. I've been working in video games for going on 20 years now. Trained classically trained artist out of college, and then got into 3D design. And so I like to create things, and I started off for fun, just trying to design something in 3D without really any intention of like actually making it or selling
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Just I just wanted to see if I could make a cool design in 3D. But then I started posting it on my Instagram, and it really, really quickly started to get a lot of attention. People would be like, "When is this going to be available? I love this design," and
Yeah, yeah.
they'd be responding, and I was like, "Oh, okay, people actually like this." So I started making different designs and more designs and posting those. And then around the same time, I actually discovered two things that got me there. So there's Yates. Um, they have a really cool Instagram page where, because they're machinists first and then like razor makers second, they post a lot of like basically mach- CNC machine porn. Like they just take all these images and videos of
Yeah.
um, close-ups of their machines like milling and like turning on the lathe and cutting out of solid steel. And I'd never seen this before. So I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so cool. It's like Michelangelo chiseling out of solid marble, and except instead it's an AI intelligence chiseling out of solid steel.
Mhm.
And so that got me really excited to go down that rabbit hole. So I bought some books on CNC and machining and started learning about that and what was involved with that. And then at the same time, I actually stumbled on to Chris from Carve,
Mhm.
his kind of story about how he got into it too. And his story was like he wanted to design a brush for fun, and he was already a machinist, and so he just wanted to turn this brush. And then he had a friend who was in wet shaving, and basically they started talking and had this idea to make his own razor. And a very similar thing happened where people just really quickly, he was like blogging about it, and
Mhm.
people really quickly grabbed onto that and then were interested in it. And so it evolved from being like a hobby thing, into like a thing for other people. And so seeing those two things, the Yates kind of machining thing, which piqued my curiosity there, and like looking at Chris's story, I just kind of got this idea. I was like, maybe I can really do this. Maybe this is not just a 3D thing. This is a thing that I can make into a real actual razor.
Hmm.
And that was it. Then I started teaching myself the particular software called Fusion 360 that you use to make production designs. And I just started iterating on it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it is funny though. Kind of you mentioned there's some similarities with people who might not even have like they're not wet shavers quite yet, but kind of have seen some things, and then just jump to the design aspect. That's really cool. I mean, just you jump right in, go in the deep end, and come out with something awesome.
It was when I think back, I'm amazed. I still can't parse out how much of it was just like me being really diligent, and how much of it was just luck. Because the truth is, uh, the craft that I come from, the background that I come from, attention to detail is part of my job. So I have to be really careful. And the way that I designed this razor, I actually I had a bunch of razors, and I measured all of the critical dimensions and critical components, and like looked up online about how the razor functions and everything, so I could try to figure out the areas where they deviate a lot across each razor and the areas where they don't deviate at all. Because if you find something where it doesn't deviate at all, that's a good indication that that's a very critical feature.
Hmm.
Like for instance, the post holes, or the posts, because those need to hold the blade, right? And the blades all have a standard dimension. So like that was how I figured it out, was just measuring them, um, and then iterating once I made my first design. But to me, it was shocking that even the V1 prototype worked as well as it did. Because there's no reason it should have. It probably should have been like a total train wreck, to be
Sure.
honest.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I feel like I got lucky there.